Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another Big Decisions for Anfield Index. There is so much going on in the world for the Red, isn't there? There's a small matter of a Carabao final coming up on Sunday. There's contracts down the road to be certain, and there's possibly people heading for the departure lounge and maybe arrivals in the summer as well. There is a million things to talk about. And if you think about the movie Freaky Friday, people, that cast me as a young Lindsay Lohan, which in a full reversal makes my colleague Jamie Lee Curtis. Yes, it is Ireland's finest, Trev Downey. Trev, it's been a while, mate. How are we?
It's the second time you've done that Jamie Lee Curtis thing to me, and I'm not having it, man. I'm just not having it. That woman's insane, and I can't be having it. But I will say to you that it's a nice, again, opportunity to get to be the one who's going to be doing the pontificating to your quiz questions. And, you know, I'm looking forward to talking about this because it's been weighing on my mind a lot, and I've avoided conversations. I think I'm not atypical. A lot of people probably did what I did for the last couple of days at work, which was you see the football type chat coming and you just go the other direction because I don't want to have to be that guy. I'm the Liverpool guy at work. I have to talk about it, blah, blah. I didn't want to do it. So it'll be nice to talk to yourself about a lot of things that I'm a little bit more rattled than I should be, I think, Dave. And I'm hoping you can calm me down or at least justify why I'm feeling a bit that way.
Well, if that's my job, I'd have an inhaler ready, Trev, because we're going to get into it and go through a few details now. So those who are familiar with Big Decisions formats, we put the big questions on the table, we chat them through, and we've got to make a few calls on certain things. So let's get right into it. First of all, the big topic, the immediate future, Trev, Sunday, the Carabao final, Wembley, 4:30 against Newcastle, for the first domestic trophy of the season. Now, this one, Trev, the Carabao does seem to split the fan base. And I don't know if it's because, like you alluded to, it's a little bit flat after the Champions League and what happened the other night and where the Carabao sits in the priorities. Maybe that plays a part. But it's a simple question with never going to be an easy answer. How big is this Carabao final for you?
Well, anyone who listened to Raw the other evening will have heard me being less than excited about it in the immediate aftermath of what had happened at Anfield. And that was because when I'm watching my team go out of the Champions League, I'm watching my team go out of the trophy that means most to me in the world. I'm also old enough to be part of the league as our bread and butter mentality. So I find it hilarious when I get kind of people condescending to me in that fashion, talking about, well, the league is, whatever. You just do you. This is a preference. And so by contrast then with the beautiful big ears, biggest pot in the world, in my opinion, the Carabao is just this little consolation prize. Now, truthfully, the league should be our consolation prize, or if you want to put it, if you want to be a little bit less disrespectful towards the efforts of the lads to get us to where we are, it should be absolutely the focus of all our joy and excitement. And I get it very hard to be too highly motivated about this thing on Sunday. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you for why, as Bryn would say. I don't have any great fondness for the domestic cups anymore, for what they mean to me. I've said this to you before on shows. A Carabao Cup, even though we've got now 10 league cups, I believe, in our bag. And it alters the Champions Wall at Anfield, and it's a big deal. And it's another trophy. And Liverpool exists to win trophies. I understand that. Again, I'm ancient. Stop throwing cliches at me, people on the internet. But I will say this. I can't get excited about it. I just can't. Because for me, it's, and again, I'm getting pessimistic now, but it's a potential opportunity for us to maybe undermine the squad a little bit more, when all I want to do now is just get this league done as quickly as possible, because it feels as if there's a little bit, and we'll get there eventually, Dave, it feels as if there's a little bit of shifting sands going on under our feet at the club at the moment. And we really need to see this team. They've been fantastic in their efforts so far. Get this big pot over the line. Number 20, fuck you, United, all the rest of it. That's what my entire focus is. And so the big day at Wembley, I don't get to go there with my mates. So for me, I mean, it's fine, Dave, but I won't lie to you and say that I'm excited about it. I understand that makes me a curmudgeon or a stick in the mud or whatever. Trophy's a trophy. Yeah, none of those cliches work on me. I'm too old, too set in my ways, and my ways now are all I care about is this league. So whereas I'll watch it and I'll be excited about it, I've forgotten last year's. I remember I was quite giddy about it because the kids did well, and that lasted for all of half an hour, Dave, and then I went out and cut my grass. It's the league. It's the Champions League. That's all I care about. So how big is it? To me, not at all. But for Arne Slot, starting his career at Anfield, bit of silver in his hand. He got a lesson there in Champions League game management at the weekend. I think it's a lesson he'll learn. He's a very bright man. And he is very inexperienced in the Champions League by comparison with a lot of his peers. And I think that will be a massive learning curve for him. I think next year he'll be dealing with a squad that's far more of his making and will be capable far more of executing what he wants and needs during games. So I think that will go well for us. We need now, with the squad that he has wrangled into title-winning form, to get there. And all this can be for me in my head now is a little distraction, a potential banana skin for that. And miserable as it sounds, Dave, that's where I am, I'm afraid, man.
It's funny. It's when you think of this trophy, the comments are starting to fly in. Red Armchair supporter there saying a double is nothing to be sniffed at. I don't think anyone's suggesting that for a second at all, Red Armchair supporter. It's more a case of how big does it sit for you? I suppose in terms of this trophy specifically, because I can be honest, I'm off to Wembley on Sunday. I'm massively looking forward to it. I've been to the last few. They are brilliant days out. And at the same time, it's like you say, I would trade it all to win a Champions League, and we all have our priorities. But do you think the Carabao, because of how it's looked at, is it the most divisive trophy for you in the fan base? It either seems to be like Marmite. People seem to love it, or they just don't care.
Well, that's exactly it. You know, nobody's sniffing at doubles, and by the way, also, mate, nobody's expecting that Slot would win it in his first year. That was not a word or sentence that I was even implying. I'm just talking about my priorities. And here's where I go with it. Let's take your mind back to 2003. I know you're a comparatively younger man than me, Dave, but you'll remember that one. And that was when, you know, we had Owen and Gerard. And we win the League Cup. Was it Carling Cup? I think then against Manchester United. And the minute the whistle went, my excitement was tempered by the fact that I knew I'd be listening to Manchester United fans going, "Nah, it's a Mickey Mouse trophy." Okay, so I'm being perfectly honest with you about that. And by the way, that was in a sort of. We had 2001 where that trophy was part of a treble of cup. That was hugely important, massively exciting to me. It felt like we were getting our club back, if you know where I'm going with that. And so to double down and win it again a couple of years later, that's great. But, you know, in the greater scheme of things, if I could go there, like if I can go to any Liverpool game, it adds to the excitement and all the rest of it. And I'll be doing Raw, massively hoping for Arne to get a trophy under his belt. Can't wait for it. It's not to be dismissive. That's not the point. It's just I know that I will be watching that game like a miserable bastard going, please don't get anyone hurt. That's what will be in my head, Dave.
Yeah, I think that's honest. You can have priorities. You can want to win a Carabao Cup, but it can come 100 yards behind the biggest two that we're looking for. So, yeah, always a good one. In that regard, we always tell each other on big decisions that we'll make the call. A bit of a split between us. But just to be clear, before anyone puts anything in the chat panel again, everyone wants Liverpool to win with no injuries there. And Andy Cap's put an interesting one. Andy Cap, was that the Mirror, was it, Trev? That cartoon back in the day? I was thinking.
Familiar, yeah.
If we are so well in the League Cup final will be bigger as it slots first season, but we have bigger fish to fry. Not bad sentiments. I think that is shared by a lot of the fan base there as well. And just because we like to do things a little bit differently, if you think the Carabao's a Mickey Mouse Cup and you wouldn't rank that, let's just listen to Lego Head on what he says about certain trophies. There you go. Some clubs even count winning the Charity Shield twice. So different for each club, but we will see what Sunday brings. Trev, this topic, the second one we're going to look at, we have talked about this. It feels like since 1997, the contract situation's been rumbling on for certain players. And I mean, on and on and on. And I would really hope by now that we're in mid-March, these guys' contracts expire at the end of May. We are into the last few months of this. And it's natural that fans are going to get uneasier as time develops. And we'll get into the latest headlines or the latest things that have been said specifically. But just kind of how it sits for you in the water right now, it can't be comfortable.
Well, it's not, and you're right. There is a bigger context that we have to acknowledge. Just as when I'm talking about a trophy, it's not about disrespect. It's about the context of, well, there's a league that's infinitely more important to me.
Yeah.
Here, we can't talk about one contract without talking about all of them, because not only are we looking at increasingly worrying quotes coming out, most recently from the captain. You've alluded to them. I'm sure you're going to get to them. I don't want to step on that just yet. But you can't help but feel that there's something awry. I had a guy try to talk to me today on Twitter about how with Virgil, he didn't want to do business last summer. And then he was accusing me of knowing what Virgil, thinking I know what Virgil wants this time. How do you know? How do you know? Nobody knows anything. That's not the point. The point is I can only go on what he says. And when he said that thing today about people, anyone who says that he's definitely staying at the club is a liar, that's worrying. And there is greater context that I know you're going to expand upon in the immediate post-match at PSG. We've got the Mo Salah thing ticking on. And it comes back to this, Dave. You and I have done a lot of hours on this specific topic between our transfer show and the last big decisions as well. And for me, it comes down to this. Liverpool currently are the proud employers of the best centre-half and the best attacker in world football, currently as we are right now in terms of form. And we are in the laughably stupid position of not having those guys comfortable in their knowledge that they have a future at Anfield. I fail to see any logic in that. I can't see any sense in it. If you're going to start making arguments for me about the club being held to ransom and you're going to start talking about the club coffers, I can't, in good faith, talk to you about that because I don't care. I don't care. I'm a fan and I can be an entitled fan. That's why I'm on this show. That's why people talk on the internet. And the reason I'm talking to you on this show as a guest is because I'm saying, as a fan, I find that to be absolutely laughable. It's a circus act. When we've the captain coming out at this stage of the season after a really, really crunch game, which ended up in disappointment. And when he's put on the spot, he says that. And you think he's a bad guy? Do you think like Mo Salah, when you turned on Mo Salah, who's sort of universally lauded as one of the nicest guys in the world, and people turned on him because he used the media to get his contract? Well, that worked out great, didn't it? That just worked out great. So where are we, Dave? We are in a situation where it's very possible, from the quotes and from the things that the two lads are saying, incredibly fatalistic things the two lads are saying, that we won't get to see them next season. And that's ridiculous, man.
Yeah, someone tweeted it earlier, and I can't remember who it was, but made the point, as you alluded to there. We have the greatest centre back in the world, arguably his generation, at our club right now as our club captain. We have the best attacker, nay, the best player in the world, who both are telling everyone clearly, and there's no secret to it, they want to stay at our football club and continue playing and doing the things they're doing. And yet, here we are. And it is right when we get into that, as you mentioned, those quotes. So Virgil was emotional after that PSG game. You could see it in his face. And this actually happened in the mix zone. He was asked a few questions. So just for those who aren't watching, for the quotes, I said, I don't know what's going to happen next season. If anyone says they do know, they are lying to your face. Contracts on hold, there's nothing on hold. I keep saying the same things. If there's news, you will know it. I don't even know myself. Now, the focus, as these players have also said, because they're uber professional, Trev, is on the league trophies. That's what their focus is. But when the captain makes comments to dispel any rumours that it's all done and they're just hiding it, we're waiting for the right time, that's completely gone. That's dispelled now beyond belief. But also, there's almost a sense of, even in himself, a bit like disbelief I take from those comments. I mean, there's nothing good whatsoever about what he's saying there, is there?
That's exactly where I am with it. So call me a hopelessly naive idiot, but I prefer to take the word of the two men whose interviews we read on a regular basis, whose character we see on the pitch on a regular basis, over some faceless, nameless bureaucrats who are making business-based decisions in the background. Okay, that's my default position. If you consider that naive, then fair enough. Your opinion is your opinion. But when you hear that phrase, what was it again? If anyone says they do know about his contract, they are lying to your face. That's quite emotive language, Dave.
Yeah.
It's a very specifically expressive phrase that sounds and speaks to me of annoyance and irritation in the same way that Mo's words did earlier on in the season. Now, Mo continued to be a smiley, happy chap in the aftermath of that. Maybe it's just because he's got an elite mentality, and maybe Virgil succumbed to some annoyance in the short term. This would probably be a good point or time for you to mention as well, or for me to mention, that there was a lot of talk, not only about Virgil, but about our other mainstay there in our absolute pair of powerhouses in our centre half position, linked to the club, who have gone ahead of us in the Champions League, having beaten us and gone into the next round. Both of them being linked to PSG in different ways. One of them very fanciful, for sure, but one of them, with Konate, is an ongoing thing. And even some of the words that Konate has come out with haven't been exactly dispelling that rumor. So I find it all a little bit dispiriting. I'll be honest with you. I want to be in a position here now where I can watch this great group of lads cruise to the title, safe in the knowledge that the captain and Mo are going to be here next season. Fairly certain that Trent won't be, but that's a whole different conversation. But those two guys, they want to stay. Their words have indicated that. Their irritation that nothing's been done indicates that, and yet we're nowhere near it, Dave. And can you? Let me spin it back at you, because this is where I want to see, am I mental? Can you think of any good reason at all, why that hasn't been done? Because I can't. I keep racking my brains. What is it? Is it, don't tell me they're playing hard-balled contract. How long does that take? Come on. Business deals get done quicker than that. So can you think of one reason why that would be good, that can explain why it hasn't done?
Do you know what? I can think of two specifically, and I was thinking about this earlier, and neither of them are good. I'm not going to pretend for any reason. The first one, which I would hope it's not, but it feels like it could be a giant game of chicken, almost, so to speak, Trev, in the sense of the powers that be, as we sat there in their ivory towers, however you want to envisage it, going, these two boys want to stay at our football club. And we've got 32-year-olds who we want to be careful about, how long we sign them up for and the concerns. So if we are going to keep them, it's got to be on our terms. That is, I think, one of the plausible things that's running through my head as a first option, which isn't good. I don't think we should be doing it, just to be clear, because I can see the chats are flying in here, which we'll come to a few of. The second, Trev, which I almost feel dirty saying this, is I think whether it's Edwards, Hughes, FSG, and we'll talk about certain people, whoever you want to dress it up as, they could be thinking about pressing the biggest reset button in Liverpool history. That they could just be thinking, this is our chance to show what we can do. Now we're back in. It's our structure in place. We're in charge. And actually, if we clear over £1 million a week off the wage bill, watch us. Watch what we can do and sign in, which I think is absolute madness, because when you have generational players, as I'm calling them, elite talents, you keep them. There's no debate in history for me. It's shown you keep your elite players for as long as you can because of what they take you to, which is trophies, isn't it? That's what we're about. But, I mean, I can't think of any other reasons bar those two, Trev. It's them.
And just to refer to one of the comments, Andy says that it doesn't matter till the end of the season, so it's just a distraction. There's no real point in talking about it. And whereas I understand the sentiment, Andy, I would say, and again, Dave will have his own take on this. Is very much my opinion. I would say it actually does matter because on the back of exiting the Champions League, say there's a bad result on Sunday, there's another injury or two, and disgruntlement sets in. This is not catastrophism. These things could easily happen back to back, and you don't want a guy. Now, I've just praised their elite mentality, and I would back them to get over whatever annoyance they have in the short term to make sure that they win a league title, because that's what they want to do, to make sure they get a day out at Wembley that ends in success, which is what they'll want to do. But I do think it matters, because I think every little thing can have an influence, especially when it comes down to this the mentality of our main performers. Because we saw yesterday evening that we're getting a bit gassed, and it's starting to be a little bit thin in the ground against the very, very best teams. And we have at least 6 more wins that we need to get under our belt, Dave, to get this league title.
Yeah. Absolutely. I can't disagree with any of those sentiments. And K-Mac channel, you've made a comment there. It's funny, you're right to pull me up on this. Trev will admit we were discussing this just before the show about who's doing what within the structure. So, yes, absolutely right. Richard Hughes is not now in charge of contract renewals. That is Julian Ward, who's doing that for Liverpool. And Michael Edwards is the lead for sales and that Saudi relationship and different elements. So that is absolutely a fair call out. Whilst Richard Hughes might not be on those two elements, we can let people debate it. But the final bit on this, Trev, that I did want to go into, effectively, we're hoping it's a procession to the league title. And I can see people saying this. The season almost largely ends on Sunday because you feel it should be straightforward to the league title. I get nothing's given at all. So people are looking at it saying the season's over. So this, we set straight into contracts and things like that to really up it. Guessing you don't see it that way.
I don't. I think that's crazy. In the same way that the old Liverpool heads that I grew up listening to, the genuinely wise men like Bob Paisley, like Kenny Dalglish, just dyed in the wool Liverpool men, would never believe anything was done till it was done. They would look askance at reporters as if they had, basically pissed on their shoes if anything like that was ever suggested. And there's a tendency with the modern fan who lives most of their life on the interwebs, interacting with people who aren't real and hide behind avatars that don't even show their face. There's a tendency for those people to be very bullish and very it's a different type of I don't know, performative stuff that goes on. So season's done. It's like the first idiot to go, season's done. It gets a prize or something. Absolutely no. Just shut up. And it's not done until it's mathematically done. End of story. Never want to hear anything different about that. There's a big lot of work to get done. My point is, let's get it done quickly. Let's get it done in the first 7 games so that we can have a little procession to the title. Then that's when that happens. Not if it's still in the balance going into the last 3 games. That's asking for unnecessary stress that we don't need in our lives. Arne Slot has been so good. He has been so transformative immediately with somebody else's squad. I think he deserves to have this, 90 plus points. 97 are still available to us. And I'm going to say to you now, I don't give a crap how entitled it sounds. I want those 97 points.
Yeah.
I think Liverpool of this era, from the Klopp era into whatever Arne is going to put together, has warranted a league win with a big old chunky points total like that, because we've attained them in the past and not won the freaking thing.
Yeah, absolutely. The league isn't done. The contracts are certainly not done. The quicker we can get all of these things wrapped up, the absolute better. And again, the comments are flying in. Andy's there saying, Trev, I'm probably similar age to you and watched Anfield, Barnes, Beardsley and Rush. Love them. All that matters is the champions are all out. Number 20. Players come and go, even the greats. I agree with that, Andy, but I won't mind them sticking around for a little bit longer because we've got a couple of greats, especially. We will see what happens. But the final topic, and on that theme, maybe, I don't know if what I'm going to say is to you, Trev, the hot topic for everyone at the moment is incomings and outgoings. And we're all reading speculation, and it's always your line, which I always adopt. Anyone who tells you they're lying or tells you they know, they are lying. No one knows. We're all just speculating, having a chat in this regard. But this bit of big decisions, as it says on the screen there, for those who can't see it, as certain as can be this summer. So we're going to talk about how certain we feel in terms of who'll be staying, who'll be going, who's the maybes, and who's like, I won't bet anything on those. So the first bit, and I'm always going to put it to you a little bit of my thoughts, Trev, for this. Who's almost you would bet serious money they're in the departure lounge? Now, for me, in terms of first team players, I think Darwin Núñez feels like it would be an absolute miracle beyond belief if he's at Anfield next season, for all the reports, everything we're hearing, everything we've seen and we've talked about. Sad to say, but we've got to link back to the contracts. I'm now astonished if Trent Alexander-Arnold is at Anfield this season as well. So they're my 2 big first teamers. There's a raft of what I would call squad players that I expect Tsimikas to depart for obvious reasons, because Andy Robbo, God bless him, is still well ahead of him in the pecking order. Tyler Morton, those types of players, Endo possibly. And I'm pretty sure that if Cody Gakpo was a cat on Tuesday night, we'd have called in a taxidermist and, to be fair, stuffed and had him mounted. And yet Federico Chiesa still couldn't get minutes ahead of a practically dead Cody Gakpo. So I'm astonished beyond belief if he's there next season. How are you feeling about those names in terms of certain or confident feeling they will depart this summer?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of through line between your thoughts and mine on that one. And again, on Raw, immediately after the PSG exit, I was sort of thinking, we could be looking at a major overhaul here, because it just feels like, irrespective of whether Darwin goes on a raging run and gets 10 or 15 goals between now and the end of the season, I don't think it matters. I think the damage has been done because he's one of those guys who reads social media. He's aware of the absolute imbeciles who have been saying horrible things to him, and he's also aware of the fact that he has very much underperformed for what the expectation levels are of someone who costs as much money as him. Whether that's fair or not is someone else's argument to have. I don't really care. I'm just saying that that's what it appears to be to me. I think Darwin's absolutely out the gate, and the main reason for that is he will bring money in. I think Luis Diaz has been looking to go for a long time. The constant rumors that his old man was putting out back in the day, I think he would move the drop of a hat. And he will be thinking, because he's not on the biggest money at the club or anything, he will be thinking, well, okay, pay me a really good contract and I'll stay around here, or else I'm off. I wouldn't be surprised, and people might think this is madness, but I wouldn't be surprised to see both of those guys take the bag off the Saudi boys. So that's that. Jota is another one I have to factor in here.
Yeah.
And it's mainly because I think people, these guys who are running the show now as ruthless as we're told, they're going to see, well, this is going to be our last chance to get some money for this guy. And maybe the amount of money we could get for him will get in someone who is more available, even if they are an up-and-comer. So I think all of those are up for grabs. And of course, that doesn't mention Mo Salah, who's the fella that we started talking about a few minutes ago. Now, so you see where I'm going with this overall thing. Let's have a look at the midfield. The 4 guys who came in, I don't think anyone moves. However, Harvey Elliott looks like he could go.
Yeah.
Harvey's not getting the minutes. I don't think he's likely to get the minutes. I don't think he seems to be that kind of spare part who's going to come in and do Curtis Jones type things as far as Arne is concerned so far. Again, our money boys will be going, well, I'll tell you what, a lot of people like him. A lot of people rate him. He could bring in some money. So could Tyler Morton. So there could be a midfielder bought for the two of them together. Someone really good, maybe even a Baliba type. And then in defense, we've just been talking about Van Dijk and Kanade. I can't even allow myself to think that those guys aren't going to be at the club. But the reality of it is that our highest profile defender, who's Trent Alexander-Arnold, high profile because he's the most desired commodity we have, he is likely to go, I think. Because again, if I'm listening to what Virgil is saying all the way through and what Mo is saying all the way through and trying to interpret that and say, these guys seem frustrated, I think they would like to stay. Trent says nothing. Nothing. And so why would you not do that? Why would you not say, I'm going to put my Scouse brethren at rest and say, listen, I just want to get this done. I'm sure myself and the club will come to some arrangement. Not a word. Nothing. Instead, we get his brother coming out with Trent McManaman. So, Dave, it's all up for grabs, buddy. And the left back thing speaks for itself. There could be a 6 or 7 player overhaul. And I think I like your theory that these guys are going to back themselves to Galaxy Brain the shit out of a new squad. I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen.
Yeah, it is crazy to think those numbers. I mean, look at the numbers that are coming in the chat panels. I know you can see Trev came out mentioning Slot sold 17 players in his second season at Feyenoord. Can't maybe see that many departing, but it may well be a part of his appointment in the first place, thinking if we do go for an overhaul, this is a guy who's used to doing it. I don't think you can debate that. Andy, you've got up to 20 leaving. I'm not sure it's that many. I think everyone would be quite alarmed. There's the exodus beyond belief there. Interesting, yes, and names coming in as well. I suppose, is there a worry for you? As much as we say like they Galaxy Brain it, and this is how I sort of put it in, because there's a few maybes as well there. When we didn't even mention Joe Gomez, the question marks over Alisson Becker still as well. There's so many more. Is there a worry for you though that you fancy we're going to win the league, barring absolute disaster? That's where you want to go again almost, because you're thinking, yes, City are going through a bit of a transition period. Lego head still there. All the best teams, as we've said before, they keep the best players and they fortify from that position of strength. We've talked about that on the transfer show so many times. That does not translate to 10 or 11 departing and 7 or 8 coming in. That sort of transition or that churn, if you want to call it that, does it?
Yeah, I was listening to Young Hendrick talk yesterday, I think it was yesterday. I get my days mixed up. And I was kind of laughing to myself because he said something that I literally said to a colleague of mine earlier on a couple hours previously. And the gist of it was, we want this to become a period of extended success, not a title, another 4 years, another title. No, we want to go and roll into a period where we don't just come back at United, but we cruise away the hell from them and from City and that kind of thing. And And if you don't want that, or you don't think that's possible, I kind of question why you're in it. And that's what I'm in it for. And I think that could be possible. But if, and I like K-Mac's comment about, is the dinner lady safe, like, or the chicken staff, as Luis Suarez once called them. That it really does feel, that's what I said right back at the top of the show, it feels like we're standing on shifting sands right now.
Yeah.
And even, you alluded even to the backroom big boys whose names we know are changing roles. That's going to really upset a lot of people who've placed a lot of store in them in role X or role Y. So now when you've got so many members of the staff up for grabs as well, to me, man, it just feels a little bit, how do you roll into a back-to-back leagues if you replace that many players? Now, I do think you could replace up to 6 or 7 and continue to roll along, because the midfield unit would stay the same. The trio at the back could stay the same. You hang on to Mo Salah. It doesn't matter who plays with him. If there are upgrades, it's even better. So I think we can do it that way. But if those key pieces start going as well, forget about it.
Yeah. And also, I think we've talked about this. If we want to rebuild on whatever level, at whatever speed, or whatever progress, those players coming in will naturally be looking at, who am I playing with? Who's going to be there? Am I going to win trophies at Liverpool? And we all obviously want to play for this club more than anything, but you have to think of it from that player's perspective. Those people they're trying to bring in will want to know, like, am I going to be playing with Van Dijk, Salah, Trent? What are the plans? How do you see it all? So that will come into the mix as well. And I mean, people even see in there, Helio Matthias mentioning Doak and Bajcetic. It may well been fringe players, as we call them, or youngsters moving on to raise money for the coffers, I'd suspect as well, Helio. And incomings, Trev, because we love the transfer show. We love talking about incomings and different bits. It's what we love doing. That question's on the screen there, as certain as can be this summer. And as I'm asking you this, please don't think this means they're definitely going to be doing the Axeline. They're 100% nailed on to wear a numbered shirt. This is more about, are we certain these players are definitive targets for Liverpool? And there's 2 names I'm going to put to you, because they just keep coming up. And by the way, from journalists of all different natures, because someone's going to say on the screen, hold on, you've got Mr. Romano's name, and that will split the group, no 2 ways about it. But just to be clear, various patch journalists and Mr. Ornstein have also named these 2 players specifically. So, Trev, 2 players that they seem the hottest names, for want of a better phrase. Milos Kerkez and Newcastle's Alexander Isak. What do you think where you hear those 2?
The Isak one, I kept at arm's length, but it wouldn't go away. And the reason I kept it at arm's length had nothing to do with him as a player or his profile or his age or anything like that. It had everything, because he's actually perfect, because he's literally out of the box, good to go, years ahead of him still. What put me off was what we were told the required fee would be, and I just don't see a world in where we pay that. And here's the thing that's worth saying here, Dave. You and I have done umpteen transfer shows, and it's a sad reality now that when people talk about transfers for Liverpool, they're doing sums in their head, mate. They're doing plus columns and minus columns. I just did it a second ago without even being aware I was doing it. I was like, who do we have to sell so that we can have X amount, so we can place X amount against this player? There's no talk of an excessive budget apart from that. There's no talk about sales plus 200 million or anything of that stuff that used to be the thing that you would hear. We used to hear about war chests and stuff. We have been beaten down by this process that we've become so used to be aware that there will be no purchases unless the sales can pay for them. So that's wild. And if you do the sums on Alexander Isak's reported fee, that's a lot of sales, buddy. That's a lot of sales. We'd be doing very well to get him for the money we'd sell Diaz and Nunez for.
Yeah.
So that's that one. I would love it. Likelihood, I don't think, because of the money. Kerkez is one of those ones you mentioned in your notes earlier on. Does it feel a bit like a McAllister thing?
Yeah.
That's where I would be leaning as well. And that's why I thought maybe something like a Baliba as well. These names that we get linked with, but Kirkes just won't go away. Now, we also have to admit the likes of old Pornstein have very much dirtied their bib with bad stories, incorrect information that we all got excited about, like Kavicha, for example. In recent times. So let's not get too giddy about that, but about the fact that they're involved and so is Romano or whatever. But I think it's clearly a need. So he seems to fit the bill. If it was a betting man, I'd put a little bit of money on Kirkes being a red. But the other one, I don't see any reality to it, Dave, because of the money. I'll be honest. I just don't see it.
Yeah, it's a funny one, Isaac. In terms of, like you say, there's the fee. I mean, if we go in, as you say, the pro column, goals ready-made, all that, absolutely. There's no doubts why we'd be buying Isaac if we can get him. However, the words you said, if we can get him, if Newcastle get Champions League football, that feels very difficult. That almost feels like the first hurdle that has to be overcome. Them not getting Champions League football and him saying, I want to go. Because that's the only way I could see a possible price lowering if the player's forcing out and saying, I want to be there. Then you get the other problem, as some people will say, well, that could force an auction. And we don't like auctions. We don't like paying money, particularly at FSG, Liverpool Football Club, do we? So there's that in the mix. Yeah, there's just so many things. And the other thing that I wanted to ask you to kind of finish this section, that almost to stray into the transfer show, there's a couple of things here, because we'll have a transfer show coming in the not too distant future, people. But the names it's important to talk about. Is there a fear for you, Trev, that if what we would call an elite striker, a top name striker, heads to Anfield this summer, or is being prepared or suited to head to Anfield this season, it would mean that it's possibly on the basis that the powers that be are looking at Mo Salah departing and a change? Because you have to be honest, right now where we are, centre forward is not central to Liverpool's attacking system, is it? We've seen Nunes, Jota rotate. Is there a concern for you that if it is an Isaac or an elite nine, a question mark around Mo Salah at all?
Well, that was my worry the summer before last and last summer, that if any of these reported rumors were true, that maybe that means Mo's off. But now it's not just that Mo's off. Most people have decided to cash in their chips on Darwin, and an awful lot of heads are turning on Jota as well, just because of the availability thing. So now it's a far more complicated thing than that. And it's not just Mo Salah who can bring in money either, if we're being honest. And when you include those other three lads too, of Jota, Diaz and Nunes. And it is. Look, it's very, very tempting. There was a commenter there earlier on mentioned something about it's the FSG policy not to buy young up and coming players. But I will say to you, look, for example, at the transformative Alisson Becker. Look at the transformative Virgil van Dijk. We have the two best, possibly the two best signings, or two of the best signings that we've ever made. Certainly transformative, and also very much in that established stage of the career. So it's not like we don't have form for doing that, or it's a blanket uniform policy we always have to go for. And it really will depend, Dave, on how galaxy brain they're going here, how many people are heading for the exit. That's really what it comes down to. It feels to me like there's maybe the shifting sands behind the scenes could possibly explain the contract situation. And maybe now that has been sorted, they'll be sorted. Again, I'm clutching at straws here, buddy, but it feels to me like, in terms of certainty, we know that we're the positions that we need, but we have a history of not addressing that, or chasing a lad for the entire summer and not apparently having a backup lad. So I think I'm understandably wary and a little bit cynical, and I never, and you know this, buddy, I never bought into the whole the return of the Messiah thing. That, I'm not a revenge of the nerds boy. If they do well, I will be the first to praise them, but I can't invest that much faith in them that other people have. And by the way, they better start earning it soon, because it's not going great, apart from The big one they did call, credit where it's due, is the coach.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe that's the immediate positive, which hopefully we're going to see on Sunday. But at the same time, that does not guarantee anything for the summer. And I suppose the one final thing I do want to finish on. We are going to be busy, you feel, this summer, aren't we, for the transfer show? It's felt like the last year, nay, 18 months, it's almost like just prodding them with a stick, going, do something, please. And not an injury-prone Italian winger for 10 million quid and file it under opportunistic, like, do something proper. It actually feels like they're maybe going to have to because of what's going out the door, doesn't it?
They are going to have to. This squad is going to change, and I think it's going to change in a big way. And it's no criticism of lads who will hopefully get us to a league title. I like all of these players, and that's the great joy of the Jurgen era. Is we've recruited good lads, and I don't want to see the back of any of them. I'm not one of these people who's like, get that lad out, or Nunes is useless. I can't operate that way. I don't think that way. I would love for him still to have some sort of a redemption arc. I just don't think it's realistic at this stage. So in terms of hoping that it's going to just come right, I don't see that. So I think there will be change. And I think it's going to be on a scale that you and I aren't familiar with, buddy. Wow. Because now, to be fair, we had the wonderful 4 midfielders summer, and to be fair, they've all really contributed tremendously, and they're great lads, and love all of them. Endo, Mac, Shota, and Dom, fantastic. Let's do that to the forward line, but can we keep Mo? And let's do that to the back line, but can we keep Virgil? That's where I'm at with this.
Yeah, it doesn't seem that complicated. If only it was that simple, but we will have to see. There we go, people. When you think about it, you will all see the Carabao final as either big or not. You will choose how much it means to you on Sunday. Contracts, judging by the chat panel, there's only about 8,642 of you concerned watching the show. So I think we all share in that sentiment. And with this summer, what are we certain of? It feels big. That's the big umbrella word I'm going to put around it. A big summer, whether we like it or not, there will be a lot happening. But before we get to the summer, before we have to talk about all the things happening, all it leads me to say immediately is, Trev, for the full reversal role, for taking the time, for the analysis, and for sharing all your thoughts on big decisions, it is much appreciated, sir.
Thanks, buddy. A joy, as always. Love these chats. Always have. It's a good dynamic. Can't wait to get back to transfer shows, and looking forward to having something to actually talk about this time.
Yeah, absolutely. And on Thursday, the 13th of March, that was another big decisions for Anfield Index.